All right, so Bad Bunny and the Super Bowl halftime show controversy. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. When this started, I honestly thought this would be the last thing I would ever be talking about because I just thought it was so silly. And what? I don't know. It just seemed silly to me. It's like it's not that important. But the more I've thought about it, there's a lot of underlying issues here. There's a lot of questions are that I need to explore regarding basically why the controversy, right? So let's jump into that. So Bad Bunny set to headline the Super Bowl halftime show. I've never watched the halftime show once in my life. And honestly, I don't think I know anyone who has. Like anyone I've ever watched the game with, we've never watched the halftime show. Matter of fact, we normally change the channel during the halftime show. So, what are people upset about? What's the brouhaha? Language is one thing we're hearing. People are saying, he sings mostly in Spanish, and people think that the halftime show should unify under English or American culture. And this is something that's sort of inspired me to talk about this because I hear about American culture in this conversation a lot. And also people object to the lyrics they don't understand. Let me be perfectly clear about one thing right off the bat. I'm not even sure I'd ever even heard of Bad Bunny before this controversy. Maybe I had, maybe I haven't. What I'm saying is I don't know hardly anything about Bad Bunny. I'm probably not his demographic, just because of my age. That's not a race thing, that's an age thing. So I just wanted to make that clear. But apparently, the man has been somewhat vocal about how he feels about immigration issues, about ICE, the raids. Apparently, he's been critical of Trump, and has made statements about, cultural identity. And, people agree or disagree with those views, of course. That's perfectly natural for people to disagree on things. But I don't know that makes him controversial to sing at a halftime show. But, But that's what this is about. This is about cultural identity and nationalism. That's what this is really about. People opposed to this argue that the Super Bowl is this iconic American cultural event. And it is. It is an iconic American cultural event. And they believe that it should reflect what they believe is basically mainstream American values. Fortunately, through this controversy, a lot of people in the United States now have learned that Puerto Rico is actually part of the United States, which just is a testament to the sad state of affairs of the sort of intellectual value of our society. And now we're getting alternative programming as Turning Point USA is going to do their own show, to rival whatever, whatever. But I mean, are we in the middle of such a culture war that we're going to fight over the halftime show? And I get it. This is a big thing for Latin Americans to have this. It's kind of one of these firsts, right? It's another first. I think some of the things the right doesn't like about it is it's kind of an in-your-face signal that inclusion is a thing that the NFL believes in. NFL believes in inclusion, diversity, equity, and inclusion. They don't like that. Especially someone who's singing in a language that is not English. But Bad Bunny is an artist, and many would argue that art transcends language, you know? I totally get that. I'm not much of an artist myself. That's not, my brain doesn't go in those directions. But I understand that music is a lot more than just the words. It's about energy. It's about the what it makes you feel, right? About emotions it can bring up. And as a lover of music, I fully believe it can unite people across all kinds of barriers. But unfortunately, in this scenario, we're trying to use it to divide people. Apparently, Bad Bunny is one of the most listened to or streamed artists around the world. I was not aware of this. Look, I listen to like 70s and 80s music. But he's got a massive fan base, from what I understand. He's got an unbelievable fan base. And of course, for the NFL, there's a lot of monetary value in that. Who is the NFL trying to reach when they make these decisions? They're trying to reach out maybe to people that don't normally watch the NFL. They're trying to get people to tune in, and it's working. I think a lot of that's being missed in this controversy because everyone's made it so much about themselves. So supporters will say that the criticism is based on political positions. I think there's a lot of racial stuff involved there. It's intertwined with these culture wars. But it does beg the question: what does it mean to be American culture? And I think for the two sides that are fighting on this thing, they have distinctly different ideas of what American culture looks like. Who gets included and who gets excluded when we talk about that. And from my perspective, why is anyone excluded? But I think this controversy is as much about our national identity as it is anything else. There's a lot of stuff here to unpack. English versus multilingualism, some people see language as a unifier, other people see it as a divider or a threat. They like to other people that don't talk like them. But how often do artists, particularly Latin artists, get to be headliners of something like the Super Bowl? And what does it mean for young people to see someone who looks like them or sounds like them? So the controversy is complex. I think for many people, it's very simple. For a lot of people, it's just about race. For a lot of people, it's just that they don't know that Puerto Rico is part of the United States. For a lot of people, it's about language. But it's playing into a broader divide. Those who see cultural change and inclusion as progress, and those who see it as a threat. And we do know that this administration sees inclusion of any kind as a threat. And of course, this has all been greatly amplified by social media, politics, especially social media. So this is going to be much more than a big music event. And I got to be honest with you, I'm probably still not going to watch it because I just don't watch halftime shows. Nothing against Bad Bunny, but no matter who the artist is, I probably wouldn't watch it. I find those performances to typically be really bad because it's hard to perform well and be entertaining in that setting. But the controversy is definitely a flashpoint around culture, language, identity, politics. with a lot of critics and just as many people cheering it on, right? And so, something to think about, the people who say this person doesn't belong, Bad Bunny does not belong here, they're often the same ones who say other people shouldn't change or who believe mainstream culture must remain a certain way. And the people that support him are saying culture changes, representation matters. You don't have to understand every word of what he's saying to feel like you're a part of something bigger. Honestly, I think if Bad Bunny spoke nothing but English, this would still be just as controversial. Because I've lived here my whole life, and I know how people are, and I think this is probably a lot to do with his political positions and his race. Mostly political positions. I think they could stomach the idea of, a Hispanic or Latin person performing as long as they supported their values, as long as they supported Donald Trump. So for him to not do that and then add on the Latin aspect, that makes it's almost like it makes it worse for these people. Personally, I think the controversy is a bit of a joke, but I also believe there's a lot to be seen, and there's a lot going on here when it comes to the culture wars in this country and our national identity. And I feel like this country is like we're in our adolescent phase. I know we're 250 whatever years old, but or about to be. And maybe on a scale of the life of nations, maybe that puts us in our adolescent phase. Because we certainly have all the characteristics of adolescence, the way we act in this country. What do you guys think? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Really appreciate all my new followers and subscribers. Let me know if you're going to watch it. And like I said, I'm not going to watch it, but it's nothing against Bad Bunny. It's because I never watch it. And I could change my mind. I could be like, you know what? I'm just going to watch it just because. But honestly, who knows what I'll do? Who knows? Thank you guys so much. Thank you to all my followers and subscribers. Hope you guys have a great weekend. I will see you guys